The chill always seemed to seep deeper here, even inside the temple. It wasn't the bone-numbing cold of an open Pannonian winter, but a damp, earthy coolness that smelled of old stone and the ever-present, clinging mud of this frontier. I'd arrived with the dawn, the first rays of a watery sun just barely piercing the perpetual gray sky, and already the few other devotees were murmuring their prayers, their voices hushed and reverent in the still air. This wasn't the grand sun-drenched sanctuaries of Rome, nor the ancient sprawling complexes of Alexandria. No, this temple to Isis and Aquicum was smaller, more humble, built by the hands of legionaries and traders who, like me, found themselves far from home. Its walls were less adorned, its offerings perhaps less lavish, but the air was still crackled within her presence. I knelt before the simple altar, the stone cold pressing into my knees, and inhaled deeply the familiar scent of frankincense, a precious commodity here, mingled with the earthy aroma, a comforting anchor in this desolate land. Here at the edge of the empire, where the Danube flowed sluggishly towards lands unknown, and the threat of a barbarian raid was a constant companion, this was my true refuge. In this sacred space, no matter how humble, the noise of the frontier faded, and I was just a man, finally home, in the protective embrace of the Divine Mother. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Courtney, and welcome to the Time Travelers Club. Wow, that was so refreshing to see a man showing humility, appreciate the powerful female figure, and admit that he's comforted by her presence, and even respects her for what she does.
I know. We love that. We love a man who appreciates a queen, but don't get used to it.
True. So, last time we explored some sites associated with Isis within her homeland. Now we are going to cross the sea and explore how her message spread throughout Europe. So, we are going off with the Temple of Isis in Serapis on the campus Martius in Rome, Italy. Now,
It's named after a guy named Marty.
I mean, of course. Now, we come to arguably the most important and simultaneously the most elusive temple to Isis, at least outside of Egypt. The Temple of Isis in Serapis on the campus of Martius in Rome was the central hub for the Egyptian cults in the very heart of the Roman Empire, a place of immense symbolic power and constant contention. Unlike the standing temples in Egypt or even the preserved Pompeian site, the Grand Temple of Isis in Serapis, often referred to as the Iseum Campense for Isis and the Serapeum for Serapis in Rome, is largely gone. Its remains are buried deep beneath the bustling streets and buildings of modern Rome, a testament to the centuries of urban development and the eventual suppression of pagan cults. To locate it on a map, imagine the very center of ancient Rome, specifically the Campus Martius, Field of Mars. This was a vast open area outside the original city walls that, over time, became heavily developed with public buildings, theaters, and monuments. The Iseum Campense was located directly in the east of the Septa Julia, a massive voting enclosure, and north of what is now known as the Church of Santa Maria sopra Minerva, the Serapeum, Temple of
Ooh,
Serapis.
that was
What?
spicy, girl. The way you said that, that just rolled off tongue. Normally, we're tripping over this shit. And you were like, Church of Santa Maria sopra Minerva. And you're like, Jesus Christ, that was hot. Spicy, girl. Get it.
I
We taking you to
am
Rome.
I am barely multilingual. I love accents though. I'm not gonna lie. So I practice this kind of stuff. I love a rolling R. But the Serapeum, Temple of Serapis, was nearby, possibly even integrated into the same complex, with its remains thought to lie under the church of Santo Stefano del Capo. So, if you're standing in modern Rome, near the Pantheon or Piazza del Minerva, you are effectively standing on top of what was once this vast and important Egyptian sanctuary. What we know about its location and layout comes primarily from archaeological fragments unearthed during centuries of construction in Rome, literary sources from Roman authors, and the Forma Urbis Romae, the giant marble plan of ancient Rome from the Severan period, early 3rd century CE, which shows a detailed, albeit later, layout of the complex. Woo! I kind of gotta give myself a little bit of pause after that one. I felt like that was a mouthful.
Yeah,
Big mouthful.
yeah, I'm sorry.
You're good. All right. So, the Temple of Isis and Serapis on the Campus Martius was not just a single temple, but a massive double sanctuary dedicated to both Isis and Serapis, often seen as a divine pair. It was built, rebuilt, and extensively decorated over centuries, reflecting the fluctuating fortunes of the Egyptian cult in Rome. Despite repeated attempts by Roman authorities to suppress it, famously by Tiberius and later even Augustus, although he himself thought Egyptian monument, he brought them to Rome. He hypocrite.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress.
Mm-hmm.
The cult of Isis and Serapis remained incredibly popular, particularly with the common people, probably because it seemed more accessible rather than hierarchical. But that is just me kind of reading into it.
Mm-hmm.
Given its lost status, our understanding of its physical features is based on fragmented evidence. But here's what we can piece together. The complex was truly vast, a rectangular area estimated to be about 220 by 70 meters, about 720 by 230 feet. The Forma Urbis Romae suggests a complex with a semicircular apse, curved recess, with several extrae, semicircular recesses with seats, and a courtyard surrounded by porticos, colonnaded walkways, on the north and southern sides. This would have created a grand processional space. So you've got audience seats, okay? You have people that
Mm-hmm.
can literally sit there and watch parades happen, watch these processions happen. That's intense and kind
Yeah,
of
and
gives
like the
into the theater of
size.
the space, really.
Yeah, like just think, I don't know, dude, like 720 fucking feet long.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. It's massive.
It's gigantic. But it featured distinct temples for both Isis and Serapis, although they were likely integrated into one large precinct. This highlights the importance of Serapis, a Greco-Egyptian deity created by Ptolemy I Soter. I feel like I'm saying that right or wrong. Maybe. I don't know.
No, you said, I mean,
Soter.
no, it's you said it right. Yeah, it's so turp.
Ugh. I think my southern's coming out. It's terrible. But the deity was designed to bridge Egyptian and Greek religious traditions. So kind of meld them together, find a little blending point. The architecture was
Mm-hmm.
a fascinating mix. While the overall layout might have followed Roman basilica-like principles or enclosed courtyards, the decorative elements were distinctly Egyptianizing. This would have included, perhaps the most striking Egyptian features, many of the obelisks now standing in famous Roman piazzas, like the Pantheon obelisk in Piazza della Rotonda, the Piazza della Minerva obelisk mounted on Bernini's elephant, and even the obelisk in Piazza Navona from Bernini's Fountain of the Four Rivers, originally came from the Iseum Campense. These genuine Egyptian artifacts would have given the sanctuary an unmistakably foreign and exotic feel. So very much going along the lines of a themed room. Like you're walking into like a Disney theme park and this is heavily
Yeah,
themed.
yeah, and like of course, just like that, it's Orientalism, right?
It
It's
is.
fetishizing. It's like, oh, look how exotic, how different, like,
It is.
ooh. And, it's just like going to like the Luxor Casino or whatever. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, granted, like, it's a little different. I'm sure they did mean some respect by it, but it's like, I like these things, these elements, but like, let's like, we could even make them better. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
And
know.
that is a take that people have not gone away from this. But I
Oh
kind of
no.
wanted to like highlight, hey, we do this and we pay money to go to those places still today. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
just so you are aware. So, the complex was richly adorned with statues of Egyptian deities, Isis, Serapis, Anubis, Harpocrates, sphinxes, and other Egyptian motifs. Many of these were original Egyptian imports, while others were Roman copies or interpretations. Fragments of granite columns with
Import.
reliefs depicting Egyptian priests have also been found, suggesting the presence of specific cultic scenes. I cut you off. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say imports in quotes. Like, no, like they were stealing the shit, guys.
Oh no,
Like they
absolutely
were
they were stealing it.
robbing these people. They were like, like, all right, like I want it. Like they just went like, I bought it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And unfortunately, that has kind of been a theme throughout history where it's just like, you have this thing and I like it. I'm taking it. It's the entitlement. The entitlement. So, while Roman in form, like the Corinthian capitals, some columns found in the area have distinct Egyptianizing motifs, such as lotus or papyrus designs, or even scenes of Egyptian priests engaged in ritual. It's also believed that there was a processional avenue, possibly lined with sphinxes and other Egyptian statuary, leading to the main temples within the complex, mimicking the dromoi of great Egyptian sanctuaries. Given the importance of water in Isis's rituals, especially Nile water, the complex likely included significant water basins or pools within its courtyards for purification ceremonies, reminiscent of those found in Egyptian temples. While physically gone, we have some idea of the Temple of Isis itself from Roman coinage. Denarii, minted under emperors like Vespasian and Domitian, who extensively rebuilt the temple after a fire in 80 CE, show a small, typically Roman Corinthian temple on a podium. Intriguingly, some depictions show an Egyptian-style architrave, the beam above the columns, with a solar disk, Uri, which is a cobra, topped by a
Mhm.
pediment with Isis Sothis riding the dog Sirius, representing the star Sirius, important for the Nile flood. Other coins show a flat roof. These differing depictions might reflect changes over time or different aspects of the temple. The sanctuary had monumental entrances. The Arch of Camigliano, dismantled in the 16th century, is thought to have been one such propylon, ceremonial gateway, leading into the complex. You see, you complimented my pronunciation, and then all of a sudden I can't speak again.
Yeah,
This is
I
your fault.
I gave you
I'm
the
making
yip.
it your fault.
I gave you the yip.
You did.
Yip, yip,
How
yip, yip,
dare
yip.
you? So, unfortunately, while today's visitors to Rome can't see the Temple of Isis and Serapis in situ, its presence is mostly felt through the numerous Egyptianizing artifacts, statues, obelisks, architectural fragments like a large marble foot, the famous Madame Lucrezia bust, that were found in the area over centuries and are now dispersed in museums across Rome. So, the Capitoline museums, Vatican museums, and beyond. These scattered pieces are the direct physical evidence of its past glory. The Temple of Isis and Serapis on the campus Martius. I, I hate the way that sounds. Martius. Martius. Mar-
Martius.
Martius. I feel
You
like the
gotta
T
say
is
it
too
with
pronounced.
you've
Martius.
gotta say it with Roman Gaul, like with you have to say it with toxic masculinity, like
Oh,
Martius.
let
You have
me
to
let
say
me
it like
just,
with
get my testicles all riled up here.
you're
Okay.
right. You have to make sure your buckle's
Campus
real tight.
Martius.
There you go. You got it,
Okay, there
girl.
we go. Okay.
I
I
could
had to
really
flex my
tell that your
chest for that one.
sphincter was clenched. I could tell your sphincter was clenched, and you said that. Perfect.
But it was more than just a place of worship. It was a potent symbol of Rome's imperial reach and its complex relationship with foreign cultures. Its grandeur, its blend of architectural styles, and its collection of authentic Egyptian artifacts made it a unique and powerful presence in the heart of the Roman capital. A reminder that even the most Roman of cities embraced the allure of the Nile's ancient gods. Its absence today only adds to its legendary status, a truly lost wonder of the ancient world.
Okay, perfect. All right. So let's shift gears completely from the Eternal City to the equally famous yet tragically buried city of Pompeii and discuss the temple of Isis that was there. This temple offers a unique perspective on the spread of Egyptian cults within the Roman Empire. Unlike the grand Nile-side complexes, the Temple of Isis at Pompeii isn't an isolated structure. It was found right within the bustling urban fabric of the ancient Roman city of Pompeii, which, if you don't know, is located in the modern-day region of Campania, Italy, southeast of Naples, or Napoli. Pompeii famously was buried under a thick blanket of volcanic ash and pumice during the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE. This tragic event, however, perfectly preserved the city, offering an unparalleled snapshot of Roman life. On a map, you'll find Pompeii a short distance inland from the Bay of Naples, overshadowed by the menacing cone of Vesuvius. The Temple of Isis itself is situated in a relatively prominent location within the city walls, just a short walk from the triangular forum and the large theater complex. It was a well-known landmark, easily accessible for the city's inhabitants. And like just to kind of keep in mind too where Pompeii is, right? It was really close, to Sicily and things like that, which was very famously Greek.
Mhm.
That's where we actually get the term Greeks from because it was called Magna Graecia. And then, the Romans being those were the Greeks they were in contact, quote unquote, in contact with, just named the whole anyone who was Hellenistic as, oh, you're Greek. That's like the equivalent of calling every Latin American person you've ever met Mexican.
Makes no sense.
But,
None whatsoever.
right, and
But
it's
unfortunately,
kind of racist.
history is
Yeah,
written by the victors.
I just wanted to throw that in there. But the reason that's important to the story is because what was the Ptolemaic kingdom? Hellenistic.
Hmm.
So and also it's just a stone's throw away from Egypt. Like if you're going from Alexandria to Rome and the Italian peninsula, it's not uncommon for people to have stopped at places like Pompeii. And we talked about Isis and her connection to the ocean and all that. And like sea travel. So like, yeah, I mean, I'm not really surprised that you would have found it in this city, to be completely honest. So the Temple of Isis at Pompeii is incredibly significant, though, because it was one of the most complete, and as many things were there, and best preserved examples of an Egyptian-style temple outside of Egypt, offering direct evidence of the widespread popularity of its cult of Isis in the Roman world. It was rebuilt after a devastating earthquake in 72 CE. Man, these poor people just couldn't catch a break. God.
Honestly, that should have been their sign to not rebuild, though, to be
Oh
fair.
my God. Like you could just imagine like, oh, well, they get earthquakes a lot there, you know? So like, I
Hmm.
mean, it's like, I mean, you see that in Japan and stuff too, and other like in Iceland and stuff. Like, you know, like it's kind of par for the course. So like they were like, oh no, this happened. Shit, we gotta rebuild it. And then like 17 years later, like, oh, I'm so glad we spent all this money fucking fixing it. Christ, oh,
No,
gone.
and so detour, all I can think is the tsunami stones in Japan where they literally said, "Do not build below this line."
Yeah,
And I'm just like,
yeah,
you gotta listen
yeah. They
to
even should have like,
patterns.
to be fair, like just show that little warning, like, hey guys, in case of earthquake, don't rebuild here. Also, maybe bounce because there's gonna be. I don't know if you've heard, this doesn't end well for the
This
people of Pompeii and the
this
surrounding
doesn't
region.
end well.
There's
Jesus.
a whole movie and song. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's not great.
What's the movie?
Spoilers.
No.
Yep. 2,000
Spoilers.
year spoiler. So, but just 17 years before Vesuvius erupted, they rebuilt this place. It does indicate, though, the community's dedication to the goddess, which is nice. The temple isn't a freestanding building, though. It's part of a larger, enclosed precinct, or temenos, a sacred space walled off from the surrounding city. This emphasizes the temple's sanctity and separateness. The main entrance to the complex is on the east side, marked by a small gateway. It kind of reminds me of like, you know, when you look at like later on like castles and fortified cities, you have like the palace district or
Yeah.
something like where it's like the palace has got like its own wall. It's like walled off from the city itself.
Yes,
Yeah, it just gives that kind of vibe.
a little
I'm
bit.
sure there's no connection there, but that's fine.
Oh no, not at all.
So,
And like I'm not
no.
totally getting Attack on Titan vibes whatsoever. It's
Yeah, and I'm not getting like, oh, this is totally kind of showing how eventually those medieval kingdoms absolutely viewed themselves as sacred and divine. So therefore, there's that connection. You know, not at all. Anyway, so, well, not a massive Egyptian pylon, the entrance to the inner sanctuary within the temenos features a more modestly almost pylon-like facade with two small niches that held statues. The main temple structure itself, or cella, is relatively small and stands on a high podium, a raised platform, typical of Roman temples. Steps lead up to its entrance, and this elevated position gives it prominence within the courtyard. The cella is surrounded on all four sides by a colonnade, or series of columns, forming a peristyle. These columns are slender and elegant, with Corinthian capitals showing Roman architectural features rather than Egyptian ones like lotus or papyrus. This blending of styles is a key characteristic of the temple. So, in the open courtyard in front of the main temple building, you'll find a central altar for sacrifices and offerings. Crucially, there's also a small purification basin, or sacrarium, or lasterian basin. These basins contain water from the Nile, which was believed to be sacred and used for purification rituals by priests and worshippers before entering the inner sanctuary. This was a direct importation of Egyptian religious practice. Now, it did not come out of a vacuum. I actually was reading this great book um, about Cleopatra by Stacy Schiff. A really great book. Love it. But one of the things they brought up was she brought up this whole idea of the Nile water.
hmm
Really weird. Like they believed it like was it because the Nile was fertile. If you had Nile water, you also could become fertile, like the river, like for making babies.
I mean, it's association and religion and
Mm-hmm.
mysticism and spirituality overall work with that
Mm-hmm.
association. Like, think of herbs. We've talked about herbs and herbal medicine and things like that in the past. And, funny enough, it seems to work. but like
Yeah.
comfrey. Comfrey is one of those herbs that has like a shit ton of names for it. One of them is called bone break. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because it will literally speed up the time that it takes to heal from a breaking of a bone. Um, but in magic or spiritualism or whatever you want to call it, witchcraft, it's used for healing, like in a more metaphysical sense rather than
Mm-hmm.
a topical application. So these things are, like you said, it's not in a vacuum and it is still widely used. Association is very strong because you're calling forth the element of that. If it can give fertility to the earth, then it can help me
Mm-hmm.
to be fertile as well.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like one of those things. Of course, it's in connection with Isis because, she is also a mother goddess. She has
Mhm.
connections, of course, to the Nile and all that. I just found that like really fascinating that like this, to us, it's like imagine you get all these gifts, right? You're like royal dignitaries, right? And you get the gold and you get the myrrh and the ba 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 and the humans that you use for service that didn't have a say in anything, which are great, right? And then you get these big old jugs of water, and more than any of those other things, you're really excited about water. And like on the surface, you're like, what? But yeah, so that was the thing is like Cleopatra would send this out, and this was a hot commodity.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
like you more than all the other shit, this was the thing like wow, like she really respects me if she's sending this. So yeah, I just found that like really interesting. So towards the rear, sorry, towards the rear of the complex, behind the main temple, is a small subterranean room or niche. This is believed to be where that sacred Nile water was stored, perhaps mimicking a Nilometer, which was used to measure the height of the Nile during annual floods in Egypt. The presence of actual Nile water would have been a powerful symbol of the goddess's origin and power. Kyrie, again, weird connection. There probably actually is no connection here, but it reminds me of how like a vampire can't sleep unless it has like the earth from where they were buried underneath
Yeah.
the bed or something. Like it's like you can't worship here unless you have some Nile water.
No, and
What
honestly,
is it?
it makes sense to me, but then again, I'm thinking of it from not only the historical perspective, but the spiritual perspective, and it's just like,
Mhm.
why wouldn't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean like I get it. It's just like my head just in its beautiful mind just that's where it went. It was like, oh, it's like the vampires with the dirt under their beds.
A little
They
bit,
can't
and I
sleep
can see
without some
that.
dirt. So, unlike many Roman temples, the Temple of Isis complex includes rooms for the priests to live in or prepare, as well as dining rooms. Um, these are called triclinia or cenagola. One particularly notable room is the ecclesiasterian. Oh my God, that was a long word, girl.
No, I like that one. Ecclesiasterian. I like that one.
Ecclesiasterian. Yeah, it's a little better than Martius.
It just,
It's
I look at it and I'm just like,
Martius.
ecclesiastic. Oh, cool. Yep, that's
Yeah,
where it comes from.
eclectic.
Awesome.
Yeah, like a get. Yeah,
I
a
love
hall
etymology.
view. So, I think that the room was probably very eclectic feeling.
Possible.
Like they like like a merge of like a lot of cultures, a little eclectic going on. Eclectic boho. Oh, it was a hall.
that's that's not what ecclesiastic is, but I love the direction that you're going. That's hilarious.
I'm going eclectic because she's a wandering goddess. She's all over the place. She's got a little bit from Rome, a little bit from Greece, a little bit from Egypt, some Hungarian stuff. And it's just all in this room. She's a traveler. She's boho, a little hippie goddess. Uh, Got stop. All right. So this was a hall used for congregation meetings or initiation ceremonies. This suggests a more active community-oriented cult rather than some other Roman deities. The murals in these rooms often depicted scenes of Egyptian landscapes, mythological figures, and ritualistic banquets. This is where the Temple of Isis truly shines. These walls of the complex, both inside the main temple and the surrounding rooms, were adorned with vibrant, elaborate frescoes, and these paintings are a treasure trove of information about the cult. So that's, I guess, one good thing about the volcano popping. I mean, yeah, everyone died, but we get to see all their pretty pictures.
I mean, we love seeing
That's
pretty
cool.
pictures, but imagine
Yeah.
this as a beautifully adorned cathedral. You're going into a
Yeah.
church. This is
Yeah,
a
I mean,
room for the congregation to meet and to hear praise and everything like that. This is a direct take. So it is not just
yeah,
a like
no, I mean,
for
like,
priests only. This is for everybody, which is a
yeah,
treat.
but also at the same time, all jokes aside, we would not have this if Vesuvius didn't pop. You know, like
Yes.
like cannot tell you how groundbreaking this had been when over 100 years ago people were first seeing this shit. Like they had some scraps, like there were some fragments left. Like for example, there's a story about Raphael, who had visited Rome, then which we know about, like the Roman Forum and stuff. Like it's all open today. A lot of the shit was underground, including Nero's palace. So but there were like little holes that you could shimmy your way in. Super dangerous. But a lot of Renaissance artists would like essentially go spelunking into these places to sketch these like remaining fragments of like frescoes that were left behind. So imagine the shock to these archaeologists when they were start digging, right? And like you might have a written record of something there, what it might look like, but then you literally unbury the shit and like nothing prepares you for this. There's no written record about what this shit looked like. You just, I don't know, expect everything to be white or something. But no, it's so vibrant and colorful. And like I love this because I don't think we would have, especially with something like the Temple of Isis, we wouldn't have this if it hadn't been buried.
Oh,
So
absolutely. No, it would have been
yeah.
cannibalized. It would have been taken apart. Absolutely, it
Or
would
just
have been.
rotted. I mean it's
Just
paint.
rotted. Time
Yeah.
is the ultimate
2000 years is a
healer,
long time,
but it is
folks.
the ultimate cause for destruction. Let's be real.
I mean, right. I mean, facts. 2,000 years is a long time, guys. So,
Yes.
and paint was made with like biodegradable materials like egg. It would be
Yeah.
continued to do so for like another 1,500 years. Like, so, like, like the kind of like our paints now are made with like acrylics and like shit that does not rot. So yeah, that shit will be there for like ever. But like, or at least the fragments will be. But like this shit, like if it gets exposed to the air, it will deteriorate. So like thanks Vesuvius, thanks for killing everyone and making sure that we can get a good glimpse of this snapshot in time. Thank you. So, so many of these scenes from depict scenes from Egyptian mythology, as you would expect to a temple of Isis. So there were landscapes with pyramids, sphinxes, and even caricatures of Egyptian priests, blending the quote unquote exotic with the familiar for the Roman eyes. So again, it's like the style is Roman, like, more, I don't know, classical painting styles, um, versus like something a little more two-dimensional or stylized like Egyptian stuff, but it has the scenery from Egypt, the vibes. So it's Orientalism,
It's
you know. I
Orientalism
mean,
and it's conquest. If we're being
yeah,
really real, it's conquest. Oh, look what I
yeah,
have.
kind of, yeah. And it's also like, oh, look how cool these are, but like, I don't love their art style. Let's do it in our style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this would Orientalism, like that term, tends to be linked with like specifically a 19th century movement of art tied in with the Romantics. Very problematic, but honestly, Orientalism happens. It goes through fads all the fucking time throughout Western history. This is
Mm-hmm.
like one example, probably one of the earliest examples of that is like right here. But like you see it again in the medieval era, like fun fact, chess came from India, blah blah blah, and then they tweaked it to make the queen more powerful because Isabella Castile, blah blah blah. And it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, Orientalism. They liked certain things and then changed it to suit their own shit. Medieval manuscripts, like a lot of that shit was influenced by Middle Eastern styles.
Hmm.
Right. And it was right. Or like you would see like, oh, this was supposed to be an Oriental, like what they viewed Oriental people to be. So, like I said,
I
take it
mean,
with a grain of salt.
I could modern day spiritualism is
Yeah.
Orientalism because it is
I feel,
repackaged
yeah,
from Eastern beliefs.
I
But
do think
I
we're
didn't say
getting
that.
in a better, right. And like, to be fair, we will definitely go down that rabbit hole. There is a through line. This is not speculation. There's a whole lady who starts it.
Yep.
And she's kind of problematic. The Nazis loved her though. But we'll get there one
Woo!
day. But I mean, like, Orientalism, of course, exists today. We call it cultural appropriation. A lot of times it is. On the other hand, we are a more global community now, so it's a lot easier for us to appreciate the culture and actually go get that information ourselves and try to actually understand it and respect it. And that's not what's happening here at this time. Like you said, it's tied with conquest, and feeling like you're better than these people, but you think that it's just a novelty and how fun, and like it would break up the mundane routine. It's not that I don't think that the people at the Temple of Isis had respect for Isis as a goddess or whatever, but it's just there's always this undercurrent, right?
Yes.
So they're not trying to be Egyptians. They're trying to make something Egyptian Roman. So
They're trying to make a
with
goddess
that,
adapt, and she is not
right,
one to do that in this function. She will adapt to many things because a woman can be anything. A woman can be anything to anybody.
right,
But
as we
she
see
is
with
always
Cleopatra,
herself. But she is always herself.
right, and as we see with Cleopatra later, hence this is why
Absolutely.
she, you know, vibes with Isis. But,
We'll get there.
as we'll see, she was still her own herself, and that pissed Romans off sometimes. So,
Hmm.
but we'll get there. So, with great timing, other paintings depict scenes from classical Greek and Roman mythology. So,
Hmm.
which does demonstrate the syncretic nature of Isis at this time. But again, it's like you can't just have the Egyptian stuff there. You have to make sure that we remind them of the Greeks and the Romans, how great they are too. So, so
Always.
and how these Romans, which readily absorbed elements from other traditions, that's kind of their thing. That's what they're known for. So, some frescoes likely depicted scenes of the Isaac. Wow, I can't say this for some reason. Isaac.
Isaac?
Isaac? I feel like Isaac is wrong, but the mysteries of Isis, y'all. The mysteries of Isis. Because that's how I'm saying it.
Do it.
The, the secret initiation rituals of that cult, through their exact interpretation, though, is debated. The vivid colors, though, and their detailed narratives do bring life to the temple. While many of the original sculptures were removed for displays in museums, but like the one in Naples, though, at least they're keeping it local, I guess. The
Hmm.
temple would have housed new. At least it's not the British Museum this time, though. I'm sure they also have one, But whatever.
Oh,
Um,
guaranteed.
guaranteed, and it's probably not even like out in the public. It's probably like in some room. Like Christ, but God, I'm salty over it. I go on one of our Patreon episodes. I kind of go on a rant about this. So, like, stop stealing stuff. Um, and we did last episode. Stop stealing stuff.
Please
So
stop stealing
the
things.
temple would have stop stealing shit. Give it back. The temple would have housed numerous statues of Isis, Horus, often as Harpocrates, the child god, Anubis, and other Egyptian deities, along with Roman worshippers and emperors. The temple was constructed primarily from brick and concrete, faced with plaster, adorned with marble elements and famous frescoes. This construction is typical of Roman building practices of the period. Yeah, and like I feel like they kind of God, how do I put this? You know how like we had like really beautiful houses, at the beginning, at the end of the
Yes.
19th century, early 20th century,
And
and
then
then we
going into
have
modern
now what
architecture. Blech.
right, and it's all like, prefab houses. This is kind of that. It's like we want like the vibe. At least they were at least going for the vibe. But like they're like, let's do it like where it's cheap because we can always just rebuild it, right? Rome's never going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert.
Stick-built
Um,
houses never last.
right. So that's kind of, now a lot of the ones that have lasted in Rome have been, yes, because there was that continuation sort of, and they
Mm-hmm.
were preserved as churches or whatever. But like the ones that weren't and were completely abandoned, well.
Well,
So the Temple of Isis at Pompeii is a fascinating testament to the religious globalization in the Roman Empire, though. It shows how an ancient Egyptian cult adapted and flourished far beyond its homeland, integrating into the Romans' urban life and architectural styles while retaining core Egyptian religious elements. Its remarkable preservation provides a direct window into the daily practices and artistic expression of a vibrant religious community thriving in the shadow of Vesuvius.
angry
Dun, dun,
Vesuvius.
dun.
Dun, dun,
Yes.
dun. All
Um,
right. So, our final stop on this tour of Isis temples takes us to a fascinating example of archaeological discovery and modern reconstruction in Europe. The Temple of Isis is at Szombathely, Hungary. This site, once a thriving Roman city on the frontier, provides a tangible link to the widespread reach of Egyptian cults. To find the Temple of Isis at Szombathely, you'll need to look at a map of western Hungary, close to the modern border with Austria. Szombathely, known as Svaria in Roman times, was a significant city in the Roman province of Pannonia. It was strategically located on the famous Amber Road, a major ancient trade route connecting the Baltic Sea with the Mediterranean. The Temple of Isis, known locally as the Iseum Savarensi, is located within the city of Szombathely itself at I can't,
there's too
Rakoczy?
many
Rakoczy?
too many accents. Yeah, that
That
sounds
is
right.
possibly. I did have, a friend that spoke Hungarian, and I kind of picked up on his accent a little bit. So I'm kind of
I was
I'm
gonna say
channeling. I'm channeling. It's great.
I was gonna say, spoiler alert, guys. We don't speak Hungarian.
I
To
do
our
not.
Hungarian listeners that don't exist yet, but may in the future, hopefully one day, we're sorry. Like, we're
Like
sorry.
I
We
am
don't
I
mean to
am so
offend you.
sorry. I am so sorry because that is
But no, we tried. We wanted to show you. We want you in our show. So we
absolutely.
tried, guys.
So Rakoczy Fenruk. So it is now part of an archaeological park and museum complex that showcases the city's rich Roman heritage. So you're not out in the wilderness, but rather right in a modern European city, able to explore ancient ruins that were once buried for centuries. The site was discovered in the 1950s during construction work, and subsequent excavations revealed the impressive remains of this major ISIS sanctuary. What you see today is a result of extensive archaeological work and a significant reconstruction project completed in 2012. That aims to give visitors a clear understanding of the temple's original appearance and scale. So, the Temple of Isis at Szombathely is particularly interesting because it represents a reconstruction based on archaeological evidence. This means while some parts are original ruins, other sections have been rebuilt to allow visitors to visualize the temple's former glory. It was one of the largest and most important Isis temples in the Danube region of the Roman Empire, believed to be the third largest after Rome and Alexandria. Similar to the Pompeii temple, the Iseum Severensi was not just a singular building, but a vast walled sacred precinct. We love that. We love having multiple buildings walled together. I don't know. I have always loved the idea of that.
It's like cozy. I don't know.
It
Like,
is. It is. And it feels more protected. It's like you got to get through doors upon doors upon doors to get to me. This is like sacred, sacred. Come on now.
well, at the same time, like imagine, if so like when you think of like those big churches, right?
Hmm.
And I've actually had this experience when I was in Paris, right? You're on like the streets, in front of like a big church, right?
Hmm.
And it's like all this activity and shit going on. And then you step inside and the door closes behind you. It's silence. Just silence.
I love that though.
And like it's such a it's so nice. Um and like I imagine that's what this sensation would be like here. You've got the hustle bustle of the city and things like that, and then you go through the gates and it's quiet and you can think and like appreciate and worship in peace,
I love a
you know?
contemplative space though. That is
Right.
definitely
So,
amazing.
mhm.
So the current reconstruction helps define these boundaries, giving a sense of the scale of the original sanctuary. The temple was built outside the walls of the Roman town, possibly on the site of an earlier industrial quarter, suggesting its unique sacred space. The central temple building, the cella, stood on a high podium, an elevated platform as was common for Roman temples. The reconstruction clearly illustrates this elevation, with steps leading up to the main entrance of the cella. The most striking features of the reconstruction is likely the recreated portico and the re-erected facade reliefs. These enormous 1.5-ton white marble reliefs, unique to Pannonia, adorned the front of the podium temple. They are of outstanding importance and depict scenes relating to the cult of Isis. The decision to carve these directly into the structural elements rather than applying them later speaks to the temple's significance and the investment made in its construction. The main temple building was surrounded by a colonnaded courtyard, peristyle, a common feature that allowed for ritual processions and congregational gatherings. The reconstruction shows these columns, often with Corinthian capitals, highlighting the blend of Roman architecture with the Egyptian cult. As with other Isis temples, the complex included an altar for sacrifices and areas for purification. The presence of sacred Nile water would have been crucial for rituals, and archaeological findings likely indicate where such facilities existed. The larger complex would have included various other buildings, such as priests' quarters, ritual rooms used for ceremonies, initiations, or sacred banquets, and storage rooms used for cult objects and offerings. The modern museum building is built on some of these Roman foundations, integrating ancient and new. Imagine being able to touch the bricks, like seeing
I
it go
know.
from like the old stone into like modern plaster and just seeing that blend. Like I am, oh.
I ex- yeah, so if you go this one time in Paris, for real, when I went to the Louvre, the Louvre, holy crap, I sound like I didn't even actually go there. When you go to the Louvre, they actually have a new-ish exhibit
Mhm.
downstairs, where you can actually kind of do this. So they have like one of the old walls from the Tuileries Palace, like from the original palace that the Louvre was,
Mhm.
like when it was OG built, exposed now, right in this modern gallery, and you can touch it. It's
Oh my
there,
gosh, that
and you can see the layers. That's really cool. Like it's
that
not
is
like a
so awesome.
reconstruction. This is the actual fucking wall, and you're like, that's wild.
No, and I love that so much. Like I am such an architecture geek. It's amazing.
Me too.
So, the original temple was built from limestone and marble. The reconstruction uses original archaeological fragments where possible, supplemented by modern materials to fill in the gaps and recreate the form of the ancient structures. A common practice in modern reconstructions like this is to use a red line on walls or different colored gravel on floors to clearly distinguish between original Roman remains and modern additions. A didactic approach to help visitors understand what they are actually seeing, which I love.
Mhm.
Yes, be clear. I want the line, but that's just me.
Well, the other reason it's not just a visual thing. Like you saw a lot of this in the early, the late 19th century, early 20th century, like Knossos in Crete, where like the Minoan ruins were rediscovered.
Yeah.
The guy kind of went ambitious and like totally reconstructed everything there, and then it's like, oh, he shouldn't have done that, like with paint and everything.
Mm,
Because it turns out that like, while it was a good idea, like he had okay, like I see where your logic was, why you thought it looked that way. Turns out didn't, and it's permanent.
it's
Right.
almost like, their depiction of dinosaurs, and it's just like, hold on, you are literally basing the lizard motif off of just bones. You're not accounting
Yeah,
for actual fat and muscle and everything like that.
right. Well,
So this
even
is
like
why people
dinosaurs.
got so upset when they were like, T-Rexes had feathers, and they were just like, what? But
Well,
yes.
it's like honestly, it's because if you know like a little bit about like that kind of like dinosaur skeletons and stuff, like the ones you see in museums, when you're looking at those, most of those aren't the real bones. They're
Mm-mm.
just the bones themselves are hypothetical. They might have like three bones, and they're like, ah, and like that blows my mind too. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is what this whole ass thing looked like based off its like ass bone, and you're like, what? But with that being said, imagine you took all those plaster, like, like the fake bones, and you gorilla glued them all to the real ones.
Exactly.
And then it turns out that you were wrong. And that happens a lot because, it's just ideas. Because then we actually find a more full skeleton. And you're like, oh, yikes. We thought it had, like, I don't know, long neck. And it turns out it doesn't. And you're like, oh, yikes. But, right. So you
Or
can't,
it's
it's
just, it's a
especially
different
with
species,
building.
guys. It's a different species. Mine still exists, but this is a different species.
Yeah, they get to them, those
Ugh,
too.
I
But,
hate that
like,
so much.
but that's why I really like in art conservation and like anything from a drawing and a painting all the way up to these big ass buildings, right? Most of these things now are done in a way like where you can undo it
Hmm.
in case there's more information that comes in. And you have to make sure that there's a clear marker between. I'm sure them doing this, to be completely honest, probably had some controversy in the archaeological world. But at the same time, I'm glad that I don't know, there's part of me that's glad that they did it, but it's also good that they made sure to separate it.
Yes, and I fully agree. The separation is necessary. So, the Temple of Isis at Szombathely is now part of the Iseum Savarense Archaeological Workshop and Museum. This means that in addition to the reconstructed temple and exposed ruins, there is a dedicated museum building, a modern structure built on ancient foundations, that houses the myriad of archaeological finds from the site. These include fragments of cult statues, head of Serapis, torsos of Amor and Psyche, votive offerings, vessels, and bells, all providing crucial insights into the practices and beliefs of the Isis cult in Roman Pannonia. I really hate that word so much. Pannonia. Pan, Pannonia. Pannonia.
Pannonia. Pannonia.
Pannonia. Pannonia. I don't know why, but I dislike it greatly. Pannonia. The museum?
Martius. Pannonia.
We're just, you know what? It is
But
what
we
it
like a
is.
class.
The museum also offers exhibitions on the religious history of Pannonia. Today, the
Oh,
reconstructed
we have no business
Iseum.
teaching Latin.
Oh gosh, I actually took Latin in high school. That was that
Oh.
was fun. Yeah. Today, the reconstructed Iseum also serves as a unique open-air venue for cultural events, such as operas and plays, especially during the summer, which I think Isis would enjoy, just as a little detour.
Yeah.
This gives the ancient site a new life and integrates it into the contemporary cultural landscape of Szombathely. The reconstructed Temple of Isis at Szombathely is a powerful example of how archaeology brings the past to life. It demonstrates the enduring appeal of the goddess Isis, whose cult reached even the far frontiers of the Roman Empire, adapting and thriving in diverse cultural contexts. It's a place where you can truly step into a recreated ancient religious space and imagine the rituals that once took place there thousands of years ago.
So, from the meticulously carved pillars of Philae to the intimate sanctuaries found across the land, the temples dedicated to Isis stand as enduring testaments to her profound and evolved significance in ancient Egyptian society and beyond. They were more than mere buildings. They were living embodiments of her power, places where her myths were celebrated, her protection invoked, and her life-giving magic sought. The very architecture and art within the temples reflect a deep understanding and reverence for a goddess who offered hope, healing, and the promise of rebirth in a complex world. Ultimately, the pervasive presence and intricate design of Isis's temples underscore her unparalleled importance, cemented her legacy as a cornerstone of Egyptian spirituality, and a deity whose influence resonated for millennia.
Now, as you know, we are a new podcast, and we are always looking to please the dark magic that is the algorithm. So, wherever you are listening to this, whether it be Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or YouTube, if you like us, take time to give us a positive review. It really does go a long way for us.
We are almost there. We're trying to get a couple more in there, but we are starting a Patreon. And as soon as we have enough content, we're going to let you guys know. There, you can hear episodes of topics outside the main purview of this podcast, cr- create videos, do Q&As, sell merch, and in general, just get up to hijinks. So keep an eye out for that.
If you have any ideas, comments, or just want to say hi, you can reach us at timetravelersclubpodcast@gmail.com. We love it when people say hi. And as always, thank you for listening. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.